Oh yeah, the elastic fibers. I'm glad you guys asked about the elastic fibers. What did I say? What commonly damages elastic fibers? Cigarette smoke, remember? Look at this. Even in your muscle, you have elastic fibers. You see that? Okay? So, this can be damaged. Very, very important for us to understand what happens. And this will explain, if you've ever heard of Berger's disease, this will explain why smokers, over time, they will complain of muscle aches. Or they may be the ones who will have a difficulty. You know that as we get old, like me, you will get to my age one day. You'll be as old as me. You're gonna have problems with soreness or difficulty moving. They say, "Oh, I'm so stiff." I never thought that will happen to me in the morning. Sometimes it does. You get old, and I think I'm healthy, but and can you imagine when this is damaged? But in smoking, it triggers it earlier. Okay, so let's look at the importance of this elastic fiber. Look at, okay, so let's look at this. Look at, to appreciate this one, I'm going to get back to your question, okay? Before I forget, I will forget. I want you to write down in your notes, write down that muscle contraction is an active process. Active process. By that term, you will encounter that again when you take up 242.
Respiratory.
Every time it requires what?
Respiratory.
Yes. Every time you see the word active process, it means nerve stimulation was involved. So you remember, for muscle to contract, you needed the nerve so that it will contract, right? Even if you have healthy muscle proteins, healthy calcium, you require a nerve stimulus so that it will contract. The relaxation process is passive. You write down in your notes. Muscle relaxation is a passive process, meaning there is no nerve stimulus required for muscles to relax. See? The relaxation process. What factors help in the relaxation of muscle? Number one, gravity. By gravity, eventually, right? Eventually, the muscle will relax by the pull of gravity. Number two, you remember your antagonistic muscles? Here is where you're going to appreciate your elastic fibers. Look at this. When I'm, let's say my elbow contraction, my biceps is contracting, right? And what happens to my triceps? It's being, yes, very good. It's being stretched, right? So what is being stretched in the muscle? It's the elastic fibers, right? And what happens to elastic fibers when you stretch it? It recoils, right? So the antagonistic muscles, when it gets stretched, it recoils. Eventually, it will recoil to help returning back to the anatomical position. You understand? That ends the muscle contraction. Okay? So that's why you see people who have their elastic fibers damaged when they do any kind of workout or exercise. They don't last as long as those, maybe same age, same body build. They won't last as long as those who are who are not smoking. But then of course there are those who are, they say they're gifted, right? They don't feel the effects even if they smoke. I'm sure eventually it will. Okay. Then when you get to buy 242, you see where else you find your elastic fibers. Just a minute. And then number three, there's another one. Okay. Enzyme breakdown. So look at this one. We're going to go back here. Now look at number three. So you see, there is an enzyme called acetylcholinesterase. So immediately once this acetylcholine is released here, it's broken down immediately. It has to be broken down. Why? As long as it's there, it's going to not stop stimulating this muscle and you go into tetanus. You won't be able to do an actual activity. So immediately once it's released, it stimulates it once, then it's broken down by that, or it diffuses, gone. You have to wait for the next action potential to stimulate the muscle again. So, was there any nerve to help the muscle relax? No. The nerve is only required so muscle can contract. But isn't it when you contract, that's when movement happens. So that's why when nerve gets damaged, the result is paralysis. What was your question?
Uh, so if you get tensed up like a cramp or something, eventually it'll just relax.
Yes, eventually it will relax. As long as you have normal everything, right? Normal electrolytes, normal calcium, most especially. You have any questions so far? Okay? So, this overlap, do you agree with me that the contraction process requires that there is overlap between actin and myosin, right? If there is no overlap, how can muscle contract? You agree, right? So I like this slide to remind us of the importance of the warm up, the cool down. We warm up because we want blood supply, and that's different. We're going to talk about the importance of warming up, but here, cooling down, very important. The stretching before and after, we do that, right? Hopefully you do. Look at this. These are showing you different stages of zone of overlap. Where is the ideal zone of overlap here, which will give me the maximum uh, activity, muscular activity? The one where? That's very good. This one right here, right? This one has the maximum overlap, right? Look at this one. Can this one still contract? No more because it's already contracted. How about this one?
This
No,
relaxing.
because I don't see the overlapping at all, right? Right? Okay, so this is very important for you guys to remember. With this one, you know, this is why we want to do the cool down after we're done exercising. Maybe the two of you, same height, same everything, same body build, and you're doing the same exercise. But then once you're done exercising, he's just in a hurry to go home, whereas you do your stretching after you're exercising. When he goes home, he's like this. When you go home, you're like that. So when you exercise again, you're here and he's still there. So that you're going to burn more than him. You understand? How about this one? Do you remember? What very important for us for you to know that this is very real. When we overstretch, this can happen. That's why they say if you don't know the proper position, you have to consult a what do you call it? A trainer, right? Consult for the proper movement. Okay. Number two, is this the only muscle that you have? Skeletal muscle? Where else do you have muscle? Arteries. Heart. The heart, right? So you heard of cardiac enlargement. That's the scary consequence of cardiac enlargement, right? It can stretch to a point. You can stretch it because of the elastic fibers, right? You can stretch it to a point where there's no more overlap. Is this going to contract? No. So, heart failure. You see? That's why people with the common cause of enlargement is hypertension. And so that's why they say hypertension is no joke. You have to make sure that you don't stress out, you don't cause it to stretch too much because what? The zone of overlap is the key. If there's no more overlap, it's impossible to contract. It will fail. Okay? So remember, it's not only this one, it's also heart, it's also your bladder. And I think that's why that girl died. Remember Yes, hold your wheat for a week, right? So her bladder expanded, no more overlap. Heart, too much volume, no more overlap. So she died. Okay? Okay, so now I want you to know that there are two types of muscle contraction: isometric, isotonic. So, in case this was going to come out in the test, I know, or you should know, that every activity we do is a combination of both isometric and isotonic. Everything we do. However, in the test, you tell me which one is the predominant of the two. When you see the word iso means same, right? So isometric, metric is, what's metric? Yes. So isometric length, the length does not change. Isotonic, the tension. And tension is created by the weight. The tension does not change. So write down in your notes, isometric contractions actually do not accomplish any movement. So like I'm pushing against this wall. No matter how hard I push, am I moving?
No.
But did I change the length? No, right? So this is isometric. You understand?
Is it like force?
Huh?
Is it just force?
Yes, the force. So like I'm closing this one. No matter how forcefully I push this against each other, am I moving? No. No, right? So, but, and the length is not changing, isometric. You understand? So, how about if I'm carrying this one, I'm lifting this, what is it? Isotonic. Very good, okay? No, the one thing you need to know is all activities we do is always a combination isometric, isotonic. Example, when I'm trying to lift the weights, or this, whatever, I'm trying to lift this one. Let's say I'm trying to lift this one. Look at, in the beginning, it's isometric, right? Because I'm not changing yet the length. And then eventually, it becomes isotonic, right? But in the test, I'm going to exaggerate so that the answer will be obvious. Like I'll say, what do you call this? Clasping your hands like in a praying position. You know there's no movement. What's the answer? Isometric, metric. How about if I write walking? Isotonic. Okay? I'm going to make it obvious. Like, how about lifting an 18-wheeler?
Isotonic.
Can you lift an 18-wheeler?
No, isometric. Some people can.
No, the normal person. The normal person. I know you know I had a student
Isometric.
who was
Isotonic.
isometric, yes.
Yeah, I think
A student of mine argued
Metric.
because she says her boyfriend can lift her 18-wheeler. So just the normal person. I think I added a 2-ton 18-wheeler. I wrote down there so that it's obvious, okay? So do you understand? Okay? Again, I know that all we do is combination. It's always beginning isometric, then it becomes isotonic. But I just want to know that you understand. How about if I ask you, so I'm going to write A isometric, B isotonic, C both, D none. How about if I ask uses ATP? Yes, very good. Both of them will need ATP, right? How about the sarcomere shortens?
isotonic.
Shortens.
In both. You know why it shortens in both? That is how muscle contracts, right? It's just that in isometric, it hasn't shortened to generate enough tension to pull, to cause shortening of the entire muscle. But the individual sarcomeres are shortening. You understand? So sarcomere shortens in both. ATP is burnt in both. Okay? Then if it's a specific activity, I want you to tell me which one is which. Okay? You can tell which one is isometric and which one is isotonic. So another before we talk about red meat and dark meat, now we're going to talk about muscle metabolism. So look at this picture over here, okay? Look at, even though you will have healthy nervous system, you have everything, all your ingredients in place, if there is no ATP, you cannot contract. Because the contraction, the latching to the, it requires energy. Okay? So this is very important. So let's look at where do we get this ATP? What is the source of ATP? So it will also be to your benefit to know this line A, B, C. Look at letter A. This slide is telling me that all my muscle cells have ready-made ATP already inside itself. There's already pre-formed ATP. You understand? But if you remember from chapter 2, ATP is a large molecule. Okay? It's large, remember? And if you remember adenosine triphosphate, it's, you remember, they're all negatively charged. In fact, the last chemical bond is always squiggly like that to show us that negative repels negative. So it's a very unstable compound. Therefore, cells cannot store a lot of ATP. So your muscles have preformed ATP enough to power muscle contraction for only no more than 10 to 15 seconds. That's it. So after maximum 15 seconds, the ATP that you have has been converted to ADP. This is all. But this is not your gas. Your gasoline is ATP. So you need to reform the ATP. You understand? Everybody? So initially, I have this. After 15 seconds, it's all gone. This is what's left. Okay? I need to reform the ATP. Luckily, every muscle cell, so which means heart muscle, smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, they have this creatine phosphate, okay? Which, like the creatine shakes that a lot of people take, which is they don't need, right? So this creatine, it has that phosphate. So what's gonna happen after you burn this? Immediately, you will grab the phosphate here, you see, to reform your ATP. You see that? So you have replenished. Okay? This combination, ATP creatine, is enough to power muscle activity for no more than 1 minute. They say that's it. Okay, to take this away, to take this phosphate and transfer it here requires an enzyme called creatine phosphokinase. Creatine phosphokinase. Phospho, you know how to spell phosphokinase? Okay, creatine phosphokinase. Okay, you need to know that this enzyme CPK is only found inside muscle cells and nowhere else. You don't find it in a nerve cell, in a skin cell, because only muscle cells have creatine phosphate. You understand? So if you ever work in the ER where you suspect a heart attack, an MI, one of the requests you will see for blood work is they request for cardiac enzymes. So they draw the blood of the patient. And if they see cardiac enzymes in the blood, that is a sure diagnosis of an MI. What happened? If this enzyme is only found inside muscle cell, how can it be present in the blood? Only if this is damaged. Does it make sense? It must be that the muscle cell was damaged. Now it released its contents in the blood. It appears in the blood. You understand? And then there's 3 variations of this creatine phosphate, creatine phosphokinase. The MM, the MB, and the BB. So one for cardiac, one for skeletal, one for smooth muscle. So depending on what they're thinking, if they think that your heart cardiac, they request for the CPK-NB, the MM for smooth muscle, the BB for skeletal muscle. See, they're very specific. You understand? Okay? If I ask you this in the test, will you be able to explain to me why positive CPK in the blood is diagnostic of muscle injury? You will explain, right? You're not just, because some people will just write, because it means heart attack. I don't accept that. I want you to explain. You will see even in your lab exam, sometimes I mark wrong. I want to see that you understand. Do you have any questions on that part?
So that's when the cardiac muscle is damaged, so it releases.
Yes, very good. Right? When it dies, if you have a heart attack, it dies. That part of the muscle dies. When it dies, the cell membrane disintegrates. It releases whatever is inside the cell. And this should only be found where? Inside the cell. Understand? Yes? If I ask you in the test, you get it?
And so if it's found in the blood, then it means that the heart's damaged, and
That's very good, right? It is damaged, right? The only time that it will be present in the blood is if the cell is no longer intact. It spills, whatever is inside spills. Okay? Okay, so now we're still exercising. We're after 1 minute, I still want to exercise. I'm determined. So I'm going to exercise for longer than 1 minute. Where am I going to get now my energy? You remember muscles have glycogen, right? So that's the first thing that we will always burn. Why? It's there. It's inside your muscle. Where is adipose stored? Is it stored in muscle? No. It's stored where? In adipose tissue, not in muscle. What is stored in muscle is called what? Glycogen. You understand? So, you get this part? After 1 minute, no more? After 1 minute, you're back to ADP. You cannot use this for gas. So what are you going to do? You're going to go here. Because why? It's already in your muscle. So what's going to happen is glycogenolysis, right? To release the individual glucose units. And you remember glucose is a 6-carbon compound, right? And you break this in half. That's the process called glycolysis. You understand? So when you break that, called glycolysis, you break the bond, you release the energy. The energy is harvested and you form your ATP. So there, you replenish. You can still continue your exercise after 1 minute. You understand? Okay? But this process is an anaerobic process. We didn't send it to the mitochondria yet. So it's anaerobic, and this 3-carbon compound is what we call pyruvic acid. You see? This pyruvic acid, you can end there, but then this one will spill into the blood and it's converted to lactic acid. And they say that this, the acid, is the one that leads to muscle fatigue, the muscle cramping. Acid always is not good for meat, right? And your muscle is meat. And that's what leads to the feeling of cramps or fatigue.
But can't the lack of calcium do the
Also,
same thing?
yes, very good. Yeah. So when you're exercising, I'm thinking it may not be mainly calcium. When you're actively exercising and you're feeling fatigue, I'm thinking it must be mainly this. Okay? So, but can you burn this? Yes, there's still more energy. There's chemical bonds there, right? The only way to burn that is to send it to the mitochondria. And what does the mitochondria need to do its job? It needs oxygen, right? Where do you get oxygen?
Blood and hemoglobin.
Correct. From the air going to the muscles through your blood. See? That's why I know when I go to the gym, I know who's serious about exercising and who's there to find the man of his her dreams, right? You're supposed to wear, you want to encourage circulation. You don't want to wear the tight so that people will see you. If you want to exercise for endurance, you want the loose clothing to encourage circulation. Did you notice the players, right? It used to be with the basketball players, they were wearing very, very tight shorts, but now you see it's free flowing, see, to encourage circulation. That's the key to send the oxygen to your mitochondria because that's what the mitochondria need. Do you follow? So that's why I'm going to send it here. See? Can I get to this fat without burning the? It's impossible, right? Because it doesn't make sense. The carbs is already in your muscle. That is always the first nutrient that your muscles will burn. And they say that you have enough carbs to power muscle activity for about 20 minutes. That's why they say if you want to lose weight, you want to exercise for over 30 minutes. You lose the fat burning. That's the only time. Does it make sense? This is why they do combination. This one, if you do anaerobic, you will build up lactic acid. You will get that fatigue very quickly. So a lot of exercise programs, they combine resistance for maybe 10 minutes, then you jump to your aerobics, then 10 minutes again. Because they want to burn this quickly so that you can get to the fat. Because that's our goal. We want to burn this fat. You understand? You understand why they combine, right? You want to get rid of that fast so that you can get to that. But look at this picture. It's very important for you to understand this. Look at this. Yes, I know I can burn this or even this. But where? Where in the cell can I burn this? Do you see here anywhere other than the mitochondria that I can burn this? Do you see here anywhere? Any other area where you see fats being burned? No, right? Just the mitochondria. There is no other organelle in human cells that can burn your fats or even your proteins to give you energy besides the mitochondria. And what does the mitochondria need?
Oxygen.
Yes, very good. So what is the best way to lose your fat? Aerobic exercise. Right? That is the only way to get to this one. There is a difference between this and this. No matter what we feed into the mitochondria, the waste products are the same. You understand? The waste products are the same. So, I want you to look at the composition of your carbs. Isn't it C6H12O6 like this, right? Okay? And then your fat is the same. It's just longer chain. You remember? You remember that? It's just made up of CH and O. So let's look at the waste products. After it's sent to the mitochondria, look at. No problem, no problem. What do you do with this one? Yes, no problem, right? This one? Urine or sweat? No problem, right? This is your energy. This one heat? No problem. Look at with your amino acids if we burn our protein. You remember amino acids have this one, right? The ammonia, right? And then there's the R, then there's the C, COOH. Okay? So, what's missing in this picture? This one, right? So, which means you can't get rid of it. Where is this going? It stays in your blood. It stays in the blood. What is it? It's ammonia, right? Is ammonia toxic? Yes. To your nervous tissue. It's a neurotoxin. It's toxic to your nerves. So your liver Automatically, it will go to the liver. Automatic, the liver converts it to urea. Automatic, send it to the kidney to PP. This is why people who do protein shakes, protein workout, whatever, they get dehydrated. They suffer kidney problems. You understand? Can you explain to me if I ask you in the test? Okay, no problem. You see? Okay? So, yeah, I'm going to ask you one more time. Let's see. So, what do we have? What do we need for energy? ATP, right? And you understand this picture over here? Combination ATP, creatine phosphate for 1 minute, right? You understand the importance of CPK, right? Then after 1 minute, we go jump to this one. Why glucose? It is already present in your muscle. It doesn't make sense. Just like you, if you go shopping, if you have cash in your pocket, it doesn't make sense for you to go to the ATM. You still have cash there. You use up all the cash, then you go to your ATM. This is your ATM right here, right? So after this one, then you can burn this or this. But there's only one organelle. It's called the mitochondria. So, oh, look at. Do you remember? You said it requires oxygen. Don't forget, remember, that's why muscle has its own myoglobin. Remember, we talked about that? That's the oxygen binding protein. It's also present in muscle. Everything that muscle has is ideal for what it's supposed to do for us. You understand? So, because of the difference in blood supply, we will look at the two types of muscle, the red meat and the white meat, or the dark and the white. Or they call it glycolytic and oxidative muscles. I just like to use the word red and dark. It's no. Dark and white, it's easier. Where is that? There. So oxidative, glycolytic. Instead of doing the oxidative glycolytic, it's easier to remember dark and white meat. So what do you think in terms of blood supply? Which one will have more blood vessels? Dark. Which one will have more mitochondria? Dark, right? Aerobic. You're using it so it has a nice blood supply, supplying it with oxygen. This is a little bit tricky. Which one will have more glycogen? That's very good. The white. Because the white doesn't have good blood supply, so it has to make sure it's packed with glycogen so that you can readily use it, burn it.
And is that because it's anaerobic?
Anaerobic, yes. Do you know the resistance, the weight training, okay? Now I was going to mention something. I just remembered it. What was it I was going to say? I will remember. Okay? So, oh, yes. There is what you call an oxygen debt. I want to talk about oxygen debt.